Righty-ho, shall we do this? I think we shall. Hello folks, girls, 9 o'clock Sunday night UK time. It can mean only one thing. It's time for old Sicko here. Yes, I've managed to crawl out of my pit. I've been ill for the past, I was ill from sort of Tuesday to Friday. The kids had given me a horrendous lurgy. Yeah, and Thursday I was barely feeling, human. But Friday I was actually moving about, and the weekend I've managed to pick myself up. So, I am alive, thank God. There we go. Striking Hand says he sounds better. I feel better, but I'm rough. Yeah. Loads of people are saying, good old kids. I know. I'm sure it's the school lurgy. You know when kids go back to school and they swap all their germs round and they bring them home to the parents and then take out the parents for a month. So yes, I am a happy chappy. Now the question doc is open. This is a question and answer show. Yeah, I'm seeing questions appear already. That works. So we'll let those fill up and then I'll jump in. Remember guys, if I run out of questions, I finish early. So get your questions in. Links down below in the description for the question doc. I am Jace. Oh, that's it. Let me open my chat box. There we go. Sorted. Right. Is British tea you drink or is it coffee as normal people do? I'm a coffee drinker. I gave up years ago. I used to be a massive tea drinker. Then I tried to give up smoking and I switched to coffee for the sort of nicotine, not for the nicotine, but for the stimulant. And then I went back to smoking and carried on drinking coffee. Hey ho. Right, Funny thing is that on the terrainiacs Facebook page, a whole discussion has started on how to bark. Woof. Kids is nature's way of keeping germ warfare alive. It certainly is. It certainly is. Oh. Right. Now, obviously, I've been potting around it, I've been doing a few things at home and that sort of stuff and a bit of writing, but I haven't been in the studio, so I haven't got much to tell you about this week, to be perfectly honest. So I'm looking at these questions and hoping they fill up rather quickly. Oh. No, I'm saying caffeine and nicotine used to be my two favourites of mine. I used to shock people by saying that I was going off to abuse a couple of teens. Caffeine and nicotine. Sandra's saying, I'm so lucky I have Wi-Fi on my holiday. Enjoy your holiday, mate. What are you doing here? Evening, Miko. Proper Brits drink tea. Pseudo Brits drink coffee. I don't know many tea drinkers anymore, to be truthful. I think the only person that I know regularly who comes to this house who drinks tea is my mum. Right, I've got 4 questions in so far. Shall we just jump into them? Does that seem like the smartest thing to do? Lots of folks hate instant in the States. It's what we we don't normally have proper ground coffee. Yeah, I mean, we've got a few of those sort of instant machines where you throw a carton in. But Britain's a country of definitely instant coffee drinkers for sure. Christoph uses our crunched up leaves. Worked a treat. Nice one. Right. Let's jump into some questions. Okay, first off. Yeah, remember, if you've got any questions, links down below. Yeah. Right, first question from Will, watching on YouTube. I need help with painting a a model white deer. I don't know if this is anywhere near your expertise, but I need advice. A model white-tailed deer. It's not really my thing, my friend. To be perfectly honest, I would imagine that plenty of reference photos and knock your white back a bit so it isn't so vibrant, and you should be absolutely fine, buddy. But painting isn't really our thing. Right, on to the next question. Let's see if we can get something terrain related. Dan R. Any tips for doing a large Caribbean island boards? I've also got modular island commission for Blood and Plunder skirmish, and I'm just getting into it. Also, any tips on making realistic but functional 2-story buildings with removable roofs? Alright then. Okay, any tips for doing large Caribbean island boards? Depends what sort of tips you're looking for. I mean, it's an incredibly broad question. Obviously, nail your colours. Get your colours right. I mean, with the Caribbean, you want greeny blues for the Caribbean. Modular Island Commission for Blood and Plunder, I'm getting into. Alright, if you go for modular islands, you want to follow something a bit like the Games Workshop Realms of Battle board, I think it is. I saw it at Watchcall. I saw him at Adepticon, and someone had converted him over for naval gaming. So they've basically done the ground blue, and then everything, all the elevations, the hills, they've done as islands, and it worked really well. So following that style of modularity, you know, corners taking up the island on a board, yeah, and then being able to put them together to create a bigger board would be the way to go. I mean, it really depends. I mean, we're getting the beeps. It really depends on what you call it, on how many boards you build in, how big they're going to be. You know what I mean? With regards to the functional 2-story buildings with removable roofs and floors, that's just a matter of making sure that your top floor is larger than your bottom. Now, if you're doing Blood and Plunder, yeah, you're going to be able to get away with that sort of elevated, extended top story sort of look, because it was common in the Caribbean. You know, they had a lot of buildings which had, what you call it, sort of, what were they called? Not patios. Like porches, arched porches that were in shade because of how hot it was. So that's definitely a doer. Black Sails is a good reference. Luke APS did a Caribbean board, so that might be worth watching. Checking out, I mean. There's Tam. Porticos. That's it, porticos. So yeah, they're options. You've definitely got a lot of options there. I think what you really need to do, though, is the first thing is to nail down, you know, how many boards, how modular, how much of the board needs to be island. Because Blood and Plunder is a sort of like, it's a Caribbean pirate game, but it plays. I mean, I played it at Adepticon with the Blood and Plunder guys. Yeah, Rufus, absolutely great bloke. But it is a land-based game. It's not a naval combat game. So you really want your land to take up the space and the water on your boards to be more of an impression, if you know what I mean, rather than playable space. I mean, the last thing you want to do is take up 2/3 of your playable space with a water surface that you can't use for playing on. So yeah, I'd beef up your islands on that, but the key thing is check out your actual tables. Questions are coming in thick and fast, so let's get stuck in. Right, hope that helps you, Dan. Yeah, if there's anything you need to narrow down, fire another question or throw it in the comments, mate. Right, we've got James watching on YouTube. Hey Mel, what do you think of the cheap Humbrol siphon feed airbrush for emulsion paints? Humbrol siphon, if this is the one I think it is, I think it's brilliant. Humbrol siphon airbrush. Yeah, I've got one of these. It was one of my first airbrushes. Actually, they're actually quite good for PVAing. I used to use it all the time because the siphon pot was great for holding PVA. Yeah, much larger than the standard cup, and you didn't need to top it up. It's got a plastic sort of cable on it, and you'll need an adapter for the end. Yeah, if you want to connect it to a normal airbrush compressor. But I do like them, in all honesty. I think they're only like a tenner. They're dirt cheap and they're brilliant. So yeah, mate, with regards to the cheap Humbrol siphon feed airbrushes, emulsion paints, I wouldn't use them, to be perfectly honest. They struggle sucking up paint as a siphon feed, and you can get all sorts of issues with blockages if you're not using, like, you know, if you're not straining your paints and, you know, properly treating your paint properly. Yeah, but for sealing with watered down PVA, yeah, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Right. Question 4 of 9. Diggers Outdoors. Right. What do you think is more difficult? Making something that looks shiny and new, or making something that is weathered and old? I don't think either is difficult. It's just different jobs. I mean, weathered and old is probably easier because you have more more ability to play around with it, with the weathering, with the chipping, stippling, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and so if you make a mistake, you can cover it with weathering and that sort of stuff. So there's definitely a lot more room to play with weathering a piece up. But weathering can be, you know, you can do weathering wrong, and in which case that can, you know, completely screw it. Yeah. Whereas doing something shiny and new, you have to be pretty spot on with your painting and that sort of stuff. So I'd probably say shiny and new is probably the more difficult. Yeah, to actually pull off what you're trying to do. Yeah, but on the flip side, with it being weathered and old, if you don't get that right, I think it's 50-50 on that one, buddy. Ooh, what happened in the chat? Coffee grounds. Everyone's talking about coffee grounds. If the airbrush is an external mix, then emulsion paints would be okay, as you need to thin them for the siphon to work. You need to really thin them though for the siphon for it to work on a Humbrol siphon feed airbrush. Really thin it. Yeah, so much so that I don't think it's that effective for paint. Leslie's saying, your Google Doc is so small as it is illegible. Hold Control and press your plus key to increase the size of the font on your screen, Ducky. And that's the Control button and the plus and minus button to make the writing bigger and smaller on web pages. Bill saying, I find building something in pristine shape harder. No room for errors. Weathering can hide many mistakes. That is very true. VPN set to the UK. You don't have to use a VPN to get me, do you? Oh, right. You lot are watching the Great Model Railway, aren't you? And that's why you're VPNing it to the BBC. Naughty. That's naughty, that is. Oh, Jason's saying you can hold the control key and use your mouse wheel to scroll and zoom in. Or the control and the plus and minus, which means I've got to try that now. Yeah, you can. Oh, that goes really small. There you are. Right. So, I would say, On that question, it's looking to be what's shiny and new. That would be the more difficult. Weathered and old, you've got a bit more play, I reckon. Right. 5 of 9, guys. Dan R. Another one for you. Here we go. Best stucco technique for Spanish-American colonial buildings. And I did a variation on your roof tile tutorial using strips of corrugated cardboard, and it looks okay. Do you think it will hold up to gameplay? As long as it's painted up and it's sturdy and you're not placing models on it, it should be absolutely fine using corrugated cardboard. Yeah. With regards to the best stucco technique for Spanish-American colonial buildings, what you got to remember here is that the texture on these buildings was actually so subtle that in wargaming scales, it wouldn't be visible. Yeah, so don't worry about it. I would just apply some filler. Move it about, give it a little bit of a stipple just to get a light texture on your buildings. Just something so you can hold, to, a couple of washes, bit of dry brushing. Get the rest of that out. Bloody kids. Yeah, and you should be absolutely fine. When it comes to the detailing of surfaces, I mean, people will often go on about ground surfaces, but the fact of the matter is, at the scale we're working at, you wouldn't be able to see a ground surface or a texture on a road or a path, even if it was a gravel path. Yeah, so don't beat yourself up over it. Yeah, all you're actually really looking when we're doing these texturing work, when we're doing wargames terrain, is we're not actually looking to replicate a real texture. We're looking to create a textured surface that we can either use washes or dry brushes on to create a more detailed painting surface rather than it being just a flat one. That's all. So don't beat yourself up over those sort of things, guys. Yeah, Bill's saying mix baking soda and acrylic paint for a fine stucco effect. Yeah, you certainly can. Daniel R say, yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. RE stucco, nice one. I'm happy with that. Right. Okay, question 6 of 11. Christoph, how would you make snow drifts against tree sides? Right, snow drifts against tree sides. You don't really get snow drifts against tree sides. I mean, you can get that situation where you get snow up against one side of a tree, yeah, which is, where it gets blown about. And then the wind, blows it onto the tree and it gets stuck. You can do that by using acrylic filler. Yeah, white acrylic filler, mix in your snow flock. Yeah, mix it up and then simply apply it to your trees. The main thing when with snow and trees is actually the build-up of snow that you get around the edge of the tree. Underneath the tree, it tends to be mainly protected because the tree stops the snow falling there. So what you get is this ring that builds up around the tree, where the snow falls off the tree and sort of builds up and then dips down. To create that, what I do is quite often I'll use something like a DAS modelling putty, DAS air drying clay. I'll shape the undulation into the ground. Once it's dry, then I'll go in with my flocking mixture and create that over it. I mean, if you want to create larger drifts, then you can go in with foam, shape it up, cover it, blend it in, and then flock it with a snow flock, and that works just as well. Physics with Mel. You never know what you're getting with Mel. It's always an adventure. Snow doesn't go right against most trees. A bit of cavity that you can fall into. I know that about first hand about that. Do you really, Cat? Apparently what you call it. That's good news. Gerard's Kickstarter was successful. Yeah, I'm in on it. Hope you are too. Alright. Let's move on. Question 7 of 12. Tobias. Hello, buddy. I'm working on some road for World War II Normandy, and I've based them on metal steel with cardboard cobblestones with epoxy glue. How the hell do I flock the sides of the road now? EPA on epoxy, super glue, something else? Go in with filler first. Filler will stick to metal and steel and cardboard. So just go along, stipple your sides with a bit of filler. That'll give you a surface that can take paint, that can take PVA, that can take flock. Absolutely fine for your blending, mate. Yeah, so if you're using materials which, you know, are non-standard, filler is always a great material, yeah, to apply to it to create a surface that you can work on. Because filler is designed to work with so many different household things. Yeah, that it will stick to metal, it will stick to plastic. Yeah. I can't say yippee for Gerard. Yeah, I'm chuffed for the guy. Really chuffed for the guy. Been there. I'll be wrapping mine up. Well, I was hoping I'd be wrapping mine up this week, but it's going to be next week now because, you know, I've been sick for a week. But that's going to be good. How was your weekend, Mel? Not bad. I spent it with I think actually with being ill all over the week, I took a bit of a lazy weekend. Yeah, and I've just been hanging with the kids, to be truthful, so I have a really good one. So yeah, with regards to Tobias, filler, mate. A little bit of filler just down the sides, you'll be absolutely fine, buddy. Okay, question 8 of 14. We're about half an hour in. Okay, Bill and Aya. Is that 6mm terrain video coming out soon? Did you have fun building in 6mm or was it just a pain? It's no different working in 6mm. The video isn't out for a while, I'm saving it. But scales don't... I mean, things get a little bit more fiddly in 6mm, but it's just really detailed 28mm, mate. Yeah. Other than that, 6mm is quite nice. The thing that I like about working and doing terrain in 6mm is it gives you an opportunity to landscape far more than you can in any other scale. The other scales just don't allow for it. Yeah, so yeah, I quite like 6mm. Right, moving on. Question 9 of 14. The Dommy. Hello, I've seen lots of videos on doing your own washes and I'm using a cheap acrylic colour in mine. Lots of videos talk about inks. What's the best way, or can you just use what you have? Right, okay. The difference between inks and paints when it comes to washes. Inks have a far finer pigment. Yeah, and they produce a more translucent wash. So it will tint the colours it's applied to. Whereas paint is more opaque. And so it will mask what it's applied to and lay over it. So what I generally say is, you know, I generally sort of say, if you're doing if we're talking about applying washes to flock and groundwork and stuff like that, paint makes it look like muddy ground. Wash inks make it look like stained ground. Miniatures, you should really be going down the inks route, okay? Because paints don't work out well as washes on miniatures. But for terrain, they work perfectly fine. And most of my wash work, yeah, when I'm doing weathering buildings and rocks and that sort of stuff, is done with acrylic paints, not acrylic inks. Okay? Because they're easy to use and I can get the results I want. So, yeah, mate. If you've got inks are great. But as long as you've got your basic core acrylics, you're fine, mate. Just go with it. Obviously, the caveat on that is if you're doing models. Right, question 10 of 16. You guys are keeping me here tonight, aren't you? Right, in the comments, we'll try filler. Nice one, buddy. I was trying to avoid warping, and it seems to have worked. I hadn't thought about the sides of the roads where the metal and the epoxy soon filler. Well, filler won't cause any warping issues, so you're fine on that. Mel, inks are made with water-soluble pigments. Paints are not. Ground pigments? No, inks aren't water-soluble, mate. They're a much finer pigment, yeah, but they're not water-soluble. Yeah. The reason being is they separate. Right, the comments look okay. Right, okay, question 10. Will's asking, will PVA glue, Elmer's, is better to use the clear kind or the standard Y? I don't know. Here's the thing. I've never actually used Elmer's glue. Yeah, every bit of PVA I've ever used has been white. And so I've never seen a clear kind of PVA. I mean, raw PVA, I mean the industrial stuff, that can have a clearish look to it. So I don't know if it's like that. But you should be fine with the white kind. I don't know about the clear kind, to be perfectly honest, because I've never used it. Okay, question 11 of 17. Polygonal masonry. Did you know that plaster of Paris does not stick to blue foam? Depends how you apply it. This means that you can use it to make a master mould to make a milliput based cobble brick. Basically the question is what's coming up with making a texture roller. I wouldn't make a mould and I wouldn't use blue foam to make a mould out of plaster of Paris. Hey boy, to be perfectly honest, if I was making a textured roller, I'd just get a rolling pin, and I'd either get a Dremel and engrave the detail into it, or I'd get green stuff and I'd sculpt the detail onto it. Yeah, the idea of making a mould and then pouring nah. I mean, once you've got the master and you've got the only reason you'd want to make a mould is if you wanted to sell them, because you've already got the master, you've already got a textured roller there with all the detail you need. Right, moving on. 12. Brad K. Hi Mal, long time subscriber, first time live show as I live in Oz. Welcome aboard, buddy. I jumped on your Kickstarter for your awesome looking book and wondered how things are going with it. God, you're killing me, dude. You're killing me. It's going well, mate. I was hoping to have it finished this coming week. I was off this week, so I'm probably looking at next 2 weeks to wrap up. Yeah, actually get it wrap up. Yeah, so really chuffed, and it is looking really good. When can I expect the book, given I live on the other side of the world of you? I would imagine that you're going to get it in fulfillment February, March, mate. Nice. Yeah, I understand that I probably won't get it before the folks in the US and EU, but I just wanted an idea if you have one. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, and I'll check with Dave on this, but...
Hey.
Oh, hello, you as well.
Yeah. My show.
Not so cocky now, are you?
Go on. We made me lose my towel.
You made me lose my hair.
Yeah, but I did that on purpose.
Norman's saying just the thought made him cough. This book's been a long slog, to be perfectly honest. Right, with regards to getting it over to, you know, the Far East and over to Australia, perhaps maybe a week. Yeah, there are, as far as I'm aware, when we're using one fulfillment centre that's based in the UK to fulfill everything. So everyone in the UK will get it slightly earlier, because theirs will go out in the UK mail and, you know, be delivered by domestic mail, and the rest will be shipped by air mail. So I imagine EU would be next, and then I imagine it's probably States and Australia. But we're not sort of saying, right, you know, this month we're dealing with this country, and then next month we're shipping pallets over to there and starting the process over there. Yeah, we're only using one fulfillment centre, and it's going out to the lot. Yeah. So you should be absolutely fine, mate. Yeah. You'll be getting it in due course. The book is looking really good, to be truthful. Yeah, and the pieces I've made for it, it has been a ridiculously long slog. Yeah, I think it's just been that big of a project. And I think coming off the back of the Kickstarter and jumping straight into it, and then with everything else, burnout, a lot of burnout, a lot of fatigue, you know, like get stuck in, you know, have a good couple of weeks and, you know, and then you just like, creative wise, it's been challenging because you can't, when you want to do the best work you can, and especially when it comes to writing and modelling, you can't you can't just walk in on a Monday morning and go, yeah, I'm going, you know, ding, you know, switch the creative side on and everything's running. You have to sort of like, have to get that right, the vibe right. And so there's been a lot of of, right, what am I in the mood for today? What can I get done? What can I realistically achieve? And it has been a challenge. It's been a hell of a challenge, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. I mean, it's damn good. It's beautiful. It really is. As a book, it's beautiful. It's packed full of useful information. It's packed full of beautiful pictures. Dave's done a brilliant job of laying it out. And we are literally last 20 pages of it to fill. Yeah, the rest is done. Yeah, I mean, we've got the odd picture and stuff to fill in, but that's just an admin role afterwards where I go through my back catalogue and find old photos that I can use to illustrate certain points. Yeah, but I'm really chuffed with it. We've had... I don't want to say that I'm doing a second book, but the chances are I'm going to be doing a second book. But I've already turned around to Dave and sort of said I want to do it completely differently. And what I want to do is I want to just basically work on the book before we go to Kickstarter. So that when we go to Kickstarter, I know it's already written, all the stuff is built, yeah, and all Dave needs to do is lay it out, yeah. And so that the fulfillment time is much shorter and this sort of ongoing pressure, yeah, for me. I mean, my channel's down by about 50% on its normal stats, yeah, and so, you know, I can't have this knock-on effect on the channel in the future. So next time, the plan is I'll do a chapter a month or something like that. And then once I've got the full book, I'll turn to Dave and go, right, let's make a Kickstarter happen, and, you know. So yeah, that's what's going on. Right, moving on. Question 13 of 20.
You ain't having my shortbread, I made it. I'll make you some more on Monday.
Do you not love me?
If you keep acting like that, I won't.
Bugger off, bed.
Go in front of the door.
Yeah.
Got my shortbread in my hand.
Open the door yourself.
Alright, Shug.
You dropped a towel. Willow, really? Really? Stop it.
No.
Right.
Put it over this arm. Yeah, open door. I'll make you some more shortbread on Monday.
Yeah, you make me some more shortbread tomorrow. Willow just sounded like a mom. Yeah. She's turning into a mom. We'll let you have a couple of weeks before you start the next book. Damn right you will. To be truthful, I'm on this sort of like, I've given myself, we've got, in the UK we have a school holiday called half term. Okay, it's a week-long holiday and it starts at the end of October. And to be perfectly honest, I want to take that week off. Yeah, now I know from the channel point of view, it's like I've been taking a couple of months off. Yeah, but I want to take a proper week off, spend it with the kids, then come back. So I want to get everything done before the end of the month. So it's done, dusted, and I can, I can go. So, yeah, that's where we are. Right, moving on with the questions. They say the second one is easier. I would imagine it would be, because it's writing the book has definitely got easier. It's got easier just writing in general. My word count per session has gone up. My ability to photograph and to know when things are photographed, and to do photographs on the fly without disrupting the workflow too much has got much better. So I can see that. I can imagine a second book would be easier to do. I suppose fundamentally what it comes down to is the fact that writing a book, although it's about terrain, the actual process of getting the information into a paper version required me to learn a whole new set of skills, and a whole new load of work practices. And so, like I say, now I've written 120,000 words. I'm getting a bit better at writing. 120,000 words. My English teacher, when I was at school, used to go at the war with me. I mean, if they could be lucky to get me to write one side of a page in one of the notebooks for English, they'd be lucky. 120,000 words. 4,000 words a day at the minute I can do. If I put an entire day, and I'm talking about from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because I've discovered, with anything creative or anything writing, my brain don't work before midday. It just ain't happening. It took a few years, and this book has definitely confirmed it, but morning is for admin roles. Afternoon is for practical terrain building. Evening is for writing words. But if I start at like 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, if I go through to about 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I can do about 4,000 words in that 14-hour session. You know what I mean? So I'm quite chuffed with that. I mean, especially considering, when I started, I was struggling to do 1,000 words in perhaps an 8-hour session. True, Norman, but I think he loves doing his book as well now. I have enjoyed doing the book, to be truthful. I have enjoyed it. But it's very isolating. One of the things that I noticed is one of the things that when I'm doing stuff for the channel, I get feedback. I've got stuff to show you. And you guys give me feedback, both positive and negative. I get it all. Streaky Bacon, Serrated Hills is my favourite so far. But I do get feedback, and it's nice. The book, because it's all had to be kept secret and that sort of stuff, it's very isolating as an artist. Because you're not getting feedback, and you start doubting yourself even more. So, it's been a challenge. Right. Will's asking, since we're moving on, any recommendations on how to make road signs? Well, making the road signs is pretty easy. Plastic tubing, either from Lollipops or that you can buy for scratch building from companies like Evergreen Plastics or Plastruct. The road signs themselves can be cut out of plastic, plasticard or styrene sheets. But for the actual signs themselves, go and have a look at the railway community. They have transfers and stickers for pretty much every sign you can imagine, so you don't have to worry about painting them up. So go and have a look at the railroad community. They've got loads of signs, stickers and that sort of stuff. That will be of help. Christoph said, Mel, when you get your book, I'll write you a whole letter as feedback. But don't doubt yourself. Long live Bacon Hills. It becomes a chore, methinks. It does a little. It does. I suppose, actually, not in a long way, but I was hoping to have it done by now. And I get a little bit down when I'm away from the channel, if you know what I mean. Tom's saying for the signs, don't forget the plastic sticks from cotton buds. James is saying, my dissertation, 15,000 words. Started at 10 a.m, started at 10 a.m, finished at 10 p.m. Then my wife went into labour. Damn, that's a word count. Right, latest Chris. Right, moving on. Leslie's asking, what's the best material to use for the background to your build terrain, or if creating... Right, what's the best material to use for the background to build your terrain on if creating water effects, cliffs, roads, and what's best for basing figures? Right, okay, background material to use for background to build your terrain on. If you're talking about the baseboards, then I typically use MDF for boards, and I use EPVC foam board, yeah, such as Palite or Foamex for scatter pieces. When it comes to basing figures, pretty typical is either MDF, MDF discs, or the plastic bases for those. But when it comes to the actual terrain, for boards, go with wood. For your scatter pieces, go with EPVC foam board. Right. 15 to 22, Dan R. Sorry to flood you with queries. That's what I'm here for, buddy. A tech question. What's the best way to clean a hot wire knife that's gunked up with foam residue? Best way of doing it is metal scouring pads. The ones which are like balls of aluminium, sort of like scrapings. Yeah, metal scourers, for cleaning your pans. Those are brilliant. What you want is, you don't want the thin ones, like the thin scouring pads. You want the ones that are like balls. Yeah, because they need to have a decent volume so that when you've got them and you need to clean your tool, get your ball, in your hand, get a good grip on it, wrap it round your tool with a good firm, and then just stroke it up and down, cleaning all the gunk off. Oh, it is Sunday night. But no, they're the best. If you use the thinner metal Brillo pads and stuff like that, what you'll find is that the heat will transfer through from the metal, from your hot tool through the metal into your hand very quickly, and you'll burn yourself. If you go for the ones that are more volume and like balls, you don't have that problem. Wirewolf, yeah. Oh, I'm done. I am done. Oh, guys, it's just been one of those weeks. I needed that. I really needed that. Oh, I'm knackered as well. I'm still trying to get myself back up on my feet. Sorry, guys. I don't mean to talk down. It's just been a really tough week. And I think losing a week on the book got to me a lot. I was angry with myself a lot. You know what I mean? My family show. And the dog has farted. Oh, that ranks. Really? You couldn't have saved that. I've had a blocked nose all week, and you saved that for when I've got a live show and an unblocked nose, lad. Don't look guilty at me. You did it. After that explanation, do you need a cigarette? Bugger off, you lot. But yeah, if you want to clean your hot tools, the best way is metal kitchen scourers. Always remember, make sure the tool's actually hot and still on when you do it. It works with things like, you know, the metal blades and the routing wires. The thinner wires doesn't work so well on. Yeah, with those, what you really need to do is just leave them and let the heat burn off the residue. Right. Right, James is saying, I have a vernier gauge and an engineer's rule. What other measuring tools would you suggest? You busted me already, mate, because I don't know what an engineer's rule is, and I don't know what a vernier gauge is. Yeah, I use a tape measure and a ruler and a protractor. Sometimes a set square or a T-square to get my angles right. But beyond that, you don't need... We're not building, you know, we're not engineers building life-size structures. Measuring, you don't need to be that precise, or you don't need complicated tools. As long as you can get your basic angles right and get your basic measurements right within a straight line, you are good to go with terrain. So don't think that you need loads of specialist measuring tools and that sort of stuff. I mean, what the hell is a vernier gauge? Oh, it's one of the it's calipers. Right. Don't have them. Never used them. Last time I used calipers, yeah, they were fat calipers for working out body fat index. And I was probably about 22. Big plastic things. Ka-junk. Come here, give me a side of fat. Clamp. Well, there's a good centimetre there. Right, 17 or 22, Narek. I'm just getting into terrain building. What are the essentials? Right, basic material essentials. In fact, there's a great video in my Back to Basics playlist. Called The Essentials. Yeah, and it answers all the common questions. So the basic materials, but polystyrene, foam board, filler or stucco. Paint-wise, simple craft acrylics. You want some PVA glue for your gluing. A bit of balsa wood, lollipop sticks, coffee stirrers. Once you've got that, you can pretty much start, mate. Yeah, go check out the video in the Back to Basics because it does cover the basics, and yeah, it's in this section of the book. Consumables, paint, yeah, glue, paint, filler, materials, yeah, Xenix, yeah, because Xenix, yes. I have 1 inch and 1.3 m slide rules. I've got I've got loads of rulers, to be truthful. Yeah, Kat's saying if you have an engineer's brain or need to be exact, take a look at Witchlock's vids or the Tabletop Engineers vids. They tend to do things in more exact fashion. Many of us tend to wing it. I like winging it. Right, shipbuilders use them for measuring wood veneers, hence the name veneers gauge. Right, got it. That explains that. Right, with regards to the essentials, there's a video in the Back to Basics playlist, but actually, they're not many, mate, to be truthful. And if you're already into wargaming, you've already got quite a lot of them, and the rest just tend to be cheap household stuff. Right, question 18, Tyler Miller. How thick of MDF would you recommend for 1 foot square terrain tiles? 12 mil. You want at least 12 mil. Don't go for 9 mil. 9 mil you'll have warping problems. Yeah, so go for at least 12 mil. You can push it to 15 mil. Yeah, I normally go 12 to 15 on anything that's 1 foot to 2 foot. Remember to seal the tile. paint the entire tile, top and bottom, sides and everything, so it doesn't absorb moisture from the atmosphere, because that can cause warping, matey. Right. Anton's asking, alright sunshine. Hello Anton. Apologies first with regards to not sorting out the proofreading. People will know you've had... the actual question is, I'm looking at Cirrus and modular tiles and thinking, how would I get the best out of them? Right, this is the new Cirrus MDF modular tiles. They're nice, to be truthful. Very nice. They're going to need sealing, or you're going to have warping problems, I would imagine. Yeah. I've seen loads of people do work on them, and I'm expecting, you know, to see corners start creeping up and that sort of stuff. Because large, flat 3mm MDF will warp if it isn't properly sealed. I would use them as a base, to be perfectly honest. Well, obviously they're a base, but... you know, use them to create roads. I mean, the modular, they line up really well. Yeah, so I would look at perhaps using the smaller ones to create modular road systems and stuff like that. Then see if I can get some custom cut ones to make larger tiles. I mean, the one downside about, you know, the Cirrus modular tile system, and for the same thing, you know, the previous question, the 1 foot tile system, is that what you end up when you use very small modular tiles is you end up with lots of squares with things in the middle of them. Yeah, and your table is arranged like that because there's very little flow across the edges. Yeah, and because they're so small, there's lots of edges, so it ends up lots of it's like island terrain, you know, dotted about. So to throw off the idea that they are the Cirrus modular tiles, I'd seriously consider getting a few of them, joining them together, you know what I mean, and creating terrain features that flow across the join lines. Yeah, perhaps at angles and that sort of stuff, so that when you drop them in with the other pieces, what happens is you break up that grid effect that they create. Because essentially, if your tiles are 1 foot by 1 foot or like 6 inches by 6 inches, it's essentially you're creating a grid of tiles. And in the center of each grid square, there will be a terrain piece that, you know, a building, a hill, a feature that can't cross over the edge. So I think the idea of combining a few of them to get a few features that do cross over the edge will drastically improve the look of them, mate. So that's best suggestion off the top of my head. I haven't played with them, to be perfectly honest. I was talking to Steve, the guy who runs Cirrus, I watched at the Warlord Open Day, but because I was full book, yeah, I didn't call it, you know. He was like, "No, I'll leave these until I've got the book done, then I'll have a look at them." Oh. Everyone's still talking about measuring tools. You should stop measuring your tools. Grimlock Steve. Mel, I've used expanding foam to make some big bits of terrain, but in parts it's still stuff if I press on it. The filler has dried, but I can feel the sponge of the foam underneath. I've used enough Mod Podge to see if it hardens things more. Otherwise, everything is solid enough. Should I be worried, or is it alright? Depends on your expanding foam. Expanding foam is phenolic foam. Now, it shouldn't be soft. Now, it could be the brand of foam you're using, or it could be that the foam hasn't fully cured yet and it's still expanding. Which means if it still has expanding, your terrain bits are going to expand a little, and where you painted and put all your filler and your Mod Podge, it could crack. Okay? It's difficult to know without having experience of the foam, Because it could be absolutely fine, the foam's, you know, just a soft foam. But if the rest of it is hard and bits of it are still soft, that would suggest that it's a hard foam that hasn't cured. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I would put it on the shelf for a couple of days before I did anything more on that, matey. Right, moving on. Right, 21, cat. Okay, a week off around Halloween. So when is the Halloween build session? Hopefully, I'll see if what I can do for for not this Thursday, next Thursday, and we'll see if we can have a Halloween build session, cat. Right, Daniel's asking, hey, Mel, just wondering, do you have a favourite tank? Yes, I like the Electo. That's my favourite tank. It's never made. Well, the concept was made. A concept was made, but it was never actually put into service or put in production. But I think it's great fun. So yeah, that's my favourite tank. Right, very quickly. Just make sure I'm not missing anyone, just in case anyone's done the PayPal thing. I haven't done any shouts out or anything like that, so I wasn't expecting it. So I think we're good on that count. I think we're good on that count. Right. 23 or 24, Will. On rocks, do you recommend more grey colours or more tan beige colours? Depends on the sort of rocks. If I want to do sort of like Northern European sort of rocks, I'll go for grey. If I want more, more Mediterranean, you know, or Western sort of rocks, or hot environment rocks, I'll go for the beige colours. I mean, I know the two are interchangeable, but you know, they tend to. We imagine like the grey rocks to be a Northern European cold rock, yeah. Whereas the tan we often associate with warmer climates. So I tend to use the colours that fit in with the climate of the theme of the terrain that I'm doing. My favourite tank is the Armitage Shanks tank we have above the toilet. You see, that tickled me, that comment did. Really tickled me. And let me explain why. Okay. Armitage Shanks is a Stoke-on-Trent company. Yeah. Obviously, we're the potteries. We do ceramics. Toilets are ceramic. And so pretty much every toilet, or I don't know if they're made in the Far East now, but pretty much when I was a kid, every toilet in Britain was made in Stoke. Yeah, and they were made by Armitage Shanks, who had their factory, yeah, and their factory used to be on the way to my cadet centre that I used to have to walk to go to cadets. So we always used to walk down the bypass, and the bypass was sort of elevated because it went over a flyover and that sort of thing. And the Armitage Shanks factory was sort of dipped down the side, so you sort of looked over the site, yeah. When I always used to smile at myself, yeah, as I walked down, because there would just be stacks of thousands, and I mean thousands of toilets. Yeah. And I don't know why that's tickled me, but just seeing Armitage Shanks, because I think the site closed years ago, yeah, and you know, it's just a nice little flashback. Everyone's giving their their favourite tanks. Jaeger Panther, Sherman, M3A1. Right. Question 24 or 25. Tobias, hello again. Follow-up question regarding my cardboard on metal road question. You meant ordinary wood filler, right? Yeah, just bog standard. What do they call it in the States? Is it drywall compound? Yeah, and in the UK we call it filler. But yeah, just wood filler. It'll stick to it. It'll go hard. It'll take paint, PVA, everything you need to put to it. It'll be absolutely fine, mate. Oh, Lutches. I hate Lutches. Right. Final question. And we're at 10 and I've hit the last question, so I'm closing the dock. Surprise. Yeah. Have you seen Pietra wallpaper for roads? Now, I've done a quick Google search and it's a new designer wallpaper. Yeah, but it's basically embossed wallpaper that comes with a stone texture. Now, we've done this on the channel before, you know, using embossed wallpapers to create roads. It's quite simple. It's just a matter of like spraying your road surface with a spray adhesive and laying your wallpaper down and then painting it up. But they do look, the Pietra wallpaper does look rather nice. Some nice images there. Oh, I know that. That's the one Lloydie was showing on Beasts of War for his walls. Saw it in B&Q, but I haven't seen it in my B&Q yet. But yeah, embossed and textured wallpaper is great for this sort of stuff. On World of Tanks, my fave is the M6. Sorry, guys. Oh. My grandmother repurposed everything. She owned a bunch of little cottages and they were upgrading the bathrooms of several. We came home to find all the old toilets in a flower bed with begonias in them. She said they were great of that because of the drainage. That's something my mum would do. That is so something my mum would do. Ah, oh, right. My questions are done. I have done well, my people. Oh, the dog's at it again. Oh, that ranks. Oh, that's bad. Right, guys. That is disgusting. Right, we're 5 past the hour. We are questions done. I've reached out. I've been in touch. Felt a bit disconnected, especially lately with finishing off. So, I'm looking forward to getting back. I'm back in the studio. There will be a live build on Thursday from the studio this week. For hell and for high water, and if I can't do it from the studio, I'm bringing the stuff bloody home, and if I'm sick, I'm doing it ill. Yeah, but we will get some building live on the channel this week. Fingers crossed, everything's ticking along quite nicely. I've got a couple of weeks, a week off, yeah, to get it over it all, and then we get back, and we get stuck back in. Lava builds, Stalingrad builds, Cat will be screaming castle at me. Yeah, so lots of stuff to build, guys. Lots of stuff to do. Also, for you 40kers, Corb's convinced me that we should get into this and give this a go. Now, Jace got this for me ages ago. I think he had a copy and he sort of threw it my way. Yeah, so I think I'm going to spend a week or two leveraging but I've got some friends, yeah, who work for Games Workshop at various sort of different levels, yeah, and not just in the stores, but at GWHQ, managers of this, managers of that, guys I've met and known through the hobby and that sort of stuff, and met at events, and I think it's time that Mel sort of smoothied on up and leveraged a bit of that staff discount, because the train does look nice. It's also very expensive, but yeah. So a few of my friends, it is nice stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, so if any of your friends are watching, hello. Look at Kill Team, far better. The thing is, Ant, yeah, I've got everything I need to get into this. And what I'm thinking is small model count, dabble with the kid. If we get engaged, you know what I mean, properly engaged, up to kill team. But I don't want to be buying a £100 box set and expansions and all that palaver and cards and all this sort of stuff if we ain't going to be getting into it. So we're treating this as sort of kill team light, yeah. And then, you know, if we enjoy it, we can step up. Right. My bladder is screaming at me, so I am going to call it. Listen, guys, thanks for keeping me company. Yeah, hope you've had a cracking Sunday night. Deep breath, it's Monday tomorrow, but we'll be back at it soon enough, yeah? So, listen, you have a good one. I'll catch up with you soon. All the best, yeah? Ta-ra.